Link to the Past is one of the most heavily romanticized Zelda games. Romance? Well, not like that. More like everybody loves Link to the Past. And for good reason. I also love this game. We can be love brothers. We can share our sentiments of love and infatuation for Link to the Past together in the comments section below. Hello, fellow Link to the Pasters. Anyways, I've been thinking a lot about it lately. Does Link to the Past need a remake? No, not at all. Point blank. The game has aged flawlessly, without flaw. It's perfect. I love it. And yet for some reason, this topic exists. People talk about it. Even when Echoes of Wisdom was announced, I couldn't help but notice the callbacks to Link to the Past. This sort of begs the other question of, does Link to the Past need a sequel? I have seen that get asked. And I'd hate to break it to y'all, but it already has one. And it's pretty damn good. So recently I've interviewed a couple of the homies on what it was like growing up with Link to the Past, and several of them brought up Link Between Worlds, and all of the mentions were positive. Here are a few snippets of what those interactions were like.
The only other top-down Zelda game I can think of that even has a chance of dethroning A Link to the Past for me would be, I guess ironically or not, would be A Link Between Worlds, which is basically like a pseudo sequel of sorts on the 3DS. I feel like that game kind of did the impossible and was able to recreate the magic of A Link to the Past. And depending on what day you ask me, I might say that I prefer A Link Between Worlds, but I still think I prefer A Link to the Past at the end of the day, but A Link Between Worlds is right there.
I think Link Between Worlds takes ideas from Link to the Past, and it takes the map in general from Link to the Past, and it implements it in a way that truly does open the game up to be a non-linear experience, which is exactly what I've wanted all along. If the game becomes even more about exploration and doing whatever the dungeons in whatever order you want to.
It does give it a run for its money. It does. I think that the level design is really, really good. I think the graphics are great. I love the very cutesy 3D visual style that they went with. The music's still great. I love how that game knows that there's a lot of people who are going into it that are already fans of A Link to the Past, and they play with your expectations. You are rewarded for knowing that game. I know A Link to the Past very well, so there were certain things that I found because I knew that game so well. So I'm oh, I know there's a secret here. I know that there's a secret there. I know if I go there and I talk to this person, this, that, or the other will happen. And sometimes they will just be yeah, you remember there's a heart piece here. There is a heart piece here. But sometimes they'll do something else. They'll be oh, instead there's an NPC here. And if you talk to them, it'll do something else. So I appreciate that you're rewarded for knowing that game really well, but they didn't just take the lazy route for the most part. They didn't just go oh yeah, here's the same thing again. It was all fun twists on what you remember.
What I think is even more impressive about that game compared to Link to the Past is they solved the issue of the linearity by giving you what's his name, Ravio, and the item rentals, where you could be hey, I'm gonna take this hammer and I'm gonna need this hammer for this dungeon I'm gonna do. So it basically just opens the game up to be okay, you could just do whatever you want now in whatever order you want now, and there's nothing holding you back. And that was the illusion the original Link Between the World, the original Link to the Past gave you, and then they actually like sort of saw that idea through with its sequel. We call that a sequel? Its successor?
Let me bust out my Historia.
Yeah. Oh no.
I have played Link Between Worlds before, not too long after it came out, in fact. I remember the hype around it, even reading that GameSpot gave it Game of the Year for 2013. That was flabbergasting. This humble 3DS game was the best game that year, in the same year as Xbox One and PlayStation 4? Was I missing something? Or was this a slow year? I couldn't believe it. So I played it, I enjoyed it, and I kind of just stored the fact that I beat it in my mind, erasing almost all of the memories. I have forgot so much about Link Between Worlds, but this will make sense as I delve deeper. You know what that means. It's delving time. Time to delve. I'll start by saying this. The title, Link Between Worlds, makes the most sense. Honestly, it might as well have been the title for Link to the Past. What do you do in Link to the Past? You travel between a light world and a dark world. That concept is very similar in Link Between Worlds, except you're traveling between Hyrule and Lowrule, a high world and a low world. Does that mean everyone in the world is high? No, there's also people who are low. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish. In Link to the Past, parallel world exploration was facilitated by the magic mirror, as well as warp spots. In Link Between Worlds, it is facilitated by the game's main mechanic, Link merging onto the wall. If there's one thing I couldn't forget, it was this mechanic. This is the one thing I could not forget, is that Link had a merging thing. He emerged and merged. He was the merger. Link became a hieroglyph of sorts. It's a sort of throwback to the lore dump segments in Wind Waker, where Link is depicted through these similar ancient images. Not only is it kind of adorable, it's also useful, and it serves a narrative function. You kind of have to explore the overworld and dungeons with the merging mechanic in mind. The whole game is very well designed around the concept of merging. It's also designed around a unique inventory concept, borrowing items. Early on in the game, you meet Ravio. Dude, what is it with Zelda and Mario always being inextricably linked? Well, here we go. We got not Mario, it's Ravio. Well, anyways, Ravio takes over your house. No more uncle, but we got this bunny-looking dude, bunny cosplayer, who is living rent-free at Link's house. Link's house. In the middle of Link's house, Ravio. He is pawning out items. The benefit of this is that he will lend you these items at little to no cost. Also, you can get any item that he has. So any item that is required for exploration in the overworld or dungeon progression, you can get at any point. Well, at certain segments anyway. If you game over, you will have to pay him back the rental fees, but it's relatively insignificant, and you probably aren't going to game over on your first playthrough. The big perk here is that you can choose any items he has. This makes truly open overworld exploration plausible, mostly. The game gives you a taste of it in the light world by letting you choose between the Tower of Hera or the Tower of Gales after you beat the first section. After emerging in Lowrule, it's basically up to you what dungeon you want to go to. Dungeons don't reward you with inventory anymore, but there are a ton of hidden unlockables like rupees or ingredients for potions and smithing. I was about to call it smithing. This shows an acute awareness of the fact that any sort of open world game design was implied in Link to the Past. Otherwise, why would they have leaned so heavily into it in this game? In that game, it was subtle. In this game, it's obvious. There must have been a craving in the gaming community, and Nintendo leaned all in on it for Link Between Worlds. LBW. I want to acknowledge a few more things briefly. I don't want to say too much about story in case you haven't played it, but Link Between Worlds is really creative with how it flips the script on Zelda. Literally, flipping. The other is the number of games that you can play to earn rupees or heart pieces. I mention this because 1, the games are fun, especially that Octorok Baseball. Man, I put time into Octorok Baseball. I got good. So come meet me on the field, boys. And 2, they offer ample opportunities to get rupees. Why does that matter? Well, unlike some later Zelda games, there are really good things to spend your rupees on. Like you can buy each item that you rent for a huge amount of rupees, but it's worth it, because you can also upgrade those items after you bought them. You do so by collecting these sea slug looking creatures and bringing the item you want to upgrade to the singing dancing octopus. I know, it's weird, stay with me. The whole process is fun. It's enticing. It leans into what makes RPGs so much fun, that you can basically just build your character however you want, which not really with Link in this game, but the fact that you get to upgrade your items is cool. I upgraded my bow first and I got a triple arrow shot. That was really cool. And you could do that with any item. You could upgrade it and see what the upgrade gives you. So I had a great time exploring and grinding in Link Between Worlds, if you'll call it that, I guess, or Octorok hunting. I almost feel like Link Between Worlds is Link to the Past realized. Almost. None of the other labels really fit. I mean, yeah, it is a sequel. It's not really a remake because it is a unique entity. Sequel just happens to fit best, simply because this is a follow-up thematically and conceptually. There is one major thing holding me back from putting it on the same level as Link to the Past, though. This game needs to get ported ASAP. The 3DS shop is down, and man, do those units get icky with the thumb sweat. I don't think your layman gamer, 1, has a 3DS, and 2, can take proper care of it. I can barely take care of it. I'm going to try and explain this as best as I can. Playing this with the 3DS thumbstick is not ideal. After a period of holding the thumbstick, it just starts to wane, and Link starts walking as opposed to running, and I find myself having to frequently recalibrate to avoid this. This is a problem in an action RPG game. It's not game breaking, but it did take me out of the experience. There is also nothing signaturely 3DS about this title, where I feel like it can't thrive on the Switch per se. The bottom screen is primarily used as a map, which you could just assign to a button. You could also swap inventory through touch controls, but come on, you don't really need that when playing the game. Any Zelda game for that matter. And of course, their game was built around 3D being a feature on the 3DS. I think that's a long forgotten about concept. Even the 2DS disproves that. I'm a 2DS owner. I love my 2DS. You know, I'm big fan. So I think it's a disservice that the game is relegated to antiquated hardware. And don't get me wrong, I do play my 3DS annually, at some point simply for its banger library. But is there a reason that a classic mainline Zelda game should be stuck there? I don't think so. The same reason you shouldn't have to sell your kidneys to play Twilight Princess. I think why this game kind of flew over my head was because I played through it before I played through Link to the Past, somehow. There are way more callbacks than I mentioned in this video that a true Link to the Paster would appreciate. And so, if you haven't tried it or haven't played it in a while, I really think you should. There is a lot of greatness that Link Between Worlds has for new gamers and old gamers alike.